Welcome again to this video clip series, My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. I would like to just talk a little bit about this message, one of the indications of Fatima, that Russia is the chosen instrument of God to punish the world. I think you might realize and recall that in the Old Testament, when Israel strayed from God, did not live the Ten Commandments, God used another tribe or whatever to punish Israel. When Israel lived the Ten Commandments, they were strong and could defeat everybody. When they quit living the Ten Commandments, the other nations were stronger. That was God's way of trying to help them to come back to the Ten Commandments, because there's no other way to heaven except by living the Ten Commandments. Today, I think we realize that we're further away from living the Ten Commandments today than ever before in the history. And so here, an author I found on the internet, he wrote the following. He said, just as Kennedy, talking about Ukraine, he was talking about Ukraine a little bit. He says, just as Kennedy could not accept missiles in Cuba from the ex-Soviet Union, so Putin cannot accept missiles and NATO bases in the Ukraine from the United States. It's the same exact thing. So now, he says, now judge for yourself who is provoking the war without letting yourself be influenced by the American propaganda. That was written by Samuel Colombo. Because as I mentioned before, in the Old Testament, when Israel no longer obeyed God, God used as an instrument a pagan nation to punish and bring back Israel to obedience to God. At Fatima, we were told that Russia will be God's instrument to punish the world, to bring back many straying souls to obedience to God. Putin, he does not accept the New World Order, which now, under Biden, includes the United States, Europe, China, and many other countries, and even the Vatican since 2013. I might add a little parenthesis here. I found at the time when the election 3 years ago, when truly Trump, he easily won, and they, using the computer and everything else, they reversed everything. But it was interesting, I found also on the YouTube that about that time 3 years ago, that the head of China was very preoccupied, worried, because too many Americans have guns. They're already planned that they're going to conquer America. But anyway, you can find that on YouTube, that the head of China was worried about too many Americans have private guns. I might just add there, because when an army comes to conquer a nation, it's easier to put out another group of army than it is to have a whole bunch of people with arms all over, like snipers. That's more difficult. And when Germany entered into the different countries in Europe, the first thing they did was to go to the houses where guns were registered. But anyway, that's a little parenthesis. When there was President Trump, there was not this problem of war in Ukraine. The New World Order, in their great blind pride, believe that they can easily dominate Russia as they use the engineered World War III to bring Europe and the United States fully under their world dictatorship. And I say engineered World War III. In fact, I think we're now going to see that they begin this engineering to arrive into the Third World War that's now beginning in Israel, and then it will slowly spread and become the World War. Putin is certainly no saint, and the Russians neither. Just as the pagans in the Old Testament were no saints. But Russia is the chosen instrument. I might add here also that I have a good friend here in Italy who's from Poland. And her mother's still alive in '94, who lived through World War II, communism, and so on. And she explains that the Russian troops treated the Polish much worse than the German troops. I mean, they were like animals, just like animals. Anyway, there's Our Lady told Blessed Ellen Arielo, who died in 1961. She said, Russia will march upon all nations of Europe, particularly Italy, and will raise her flag over the dome of St. Peter's. Italy will be severely tried by a great revolution, and Rome will be purified in blood for its many sins, especially those of impurity. The flock is about to be dispersed, and the Pope will suffer greatly. And another, I think she was talking about the Pope Benedict and so on. Anyway, Sister Rose Asdente of Taja, in 1947, she prophesied this. She said, there shall be great confusion of people against people and nation against nations. The Russians shall come to make war on Italy. Priests and religious shall be butchered, and the earth, especially Italy, will be watered with their blood. Pray for me and the priests. We got to get ready for the gift of martyrdom. In 1960, Gabon, Spain visionary Conchita Gonzalez, she cited Padre Pio as having told her the great wonder of God, the miracle, must be paid for with much blood throughout Europe. Garabandal, God promised a sign at Garabandal, but it has to be paid for, that great sign, Padre Pio told her. Apparently, this had reference to Russian invasion. In 1999, Fatima visionary Sister Lucia was apparently compelled by Cardinal Bertoni to declare that the Pope, in unity with bishops, had already succeeded in consecrating Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. But one Father Gruner claimed that at 4 different times, Sister Lucia had declared that the consecration had failed as it did not comply with the conditions of the Blessed Mother. Lucia was quoted to have said, there was no participation of all the bishops, and there was no mention of Russia. Perhaps the greatest weapon of the New World Order, directed by the proud elite of the world, is the mainstream media, along with modern computer technology, which made it surprisingly easy to overturn a presidential election in 2020 and to brainwash the masses of people toward their goals of the worst dictatorship in the history of the world. Everyone wants to point the finger, both in the civil world and in the Catholic Church. But Our Lady of Fatima reminded us that war is caused by our personal sins and stubbornness to not trust and obey our loving Father in heaven, who gave us the 10 Commandments for our true good, not for our harm. The great majority of people today have remained spoiled, arrogant brats and all of their lives. There is no spoiled brat in heaven. Let's say it very clearly. Because in heaven, there is room for only one God, not 2. Everyone in hell thinks they are God, and thus there is war among these very numerous false, proud, rebellious gods for all eternity. In hell, without the grace of God and the gospel of love, the law is might makes right. For all eternity, it's horrible in hell. But who is the strongest in hell? Satan. I prefer to be under a benevolent dictatorship in heaven than under a malevolent dictatorship in hell for all eternity. The Catechism tells us the chief punishment in hell is eternal separation from God, 1035. Yeah, if we have a little bit of humility, what's going on today, as Our Lady of Fatima says, we want to blame somebody on high. It's your fault, you did it, where's the fault of all this? And no one wants to look in the mirror and say, it's my fault. The forces of evil have the mainstream media totally in hand. The people who do not have the strength to resist, because very few of the good pray and live their prayer, thy will be done instead of my will be done. Very few live the 10 Commandments, and thus they are not able to distinguish between the beautiful lies of the television and the truth that sets us truly free. What is happening is truly our fault. It would be a great help if at least the Catholics would do what they learned for their first Holy Communion, Sunday Mass, regular confession, and to pray the Holy Rosary with their heart every day. The forces of evil have worked for years to destroy religion and diminish prayer, so now they can manipulate us as they want, guided by the Grand Mastery of Freemasonry. Many people are finally beginning to open their eyes, and they try to protest, but few are willing to pray and offer sacrifices and do penance as our Heavenly Mother urges us to do in all of her apparitions. This is the real fundamental solution. But they don't want to do that. They want to be protagonists. It gives me more, I like more to march and condemn everybody and make a manifestation and everything, but very few are willing to obey Our Lady and say prayer and sacrifice. Because this is the period of the great confusion from our very astute enemy, Satan. I end this video clip here. May God bless you and Mary guide you.